Okay. Welcome everyone back to another AMA with Ethereum Daily. My name is Dale. I'm going to be your host for this event. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to this session with Reya Network. Now, a little bit about the rules of the AMA before we invite our guest here, Mr. Simon, the co-founder of Reya Network, to the stage. Is that we have $100 to give away to all of you. So make sure to follow the rules. And it's very simple. Just follow Reya Network or Reya Labs right now listening with the yellow tick, obviously. Follow them on their Twitter and follow our guest Simon on his Twitter as well. Like and retweet the current Twitter space so that you can be eligible for the rewards. Now, how are we going to select the winners for the rewards? Very simple. We have a second part, which is the community questions. In this one, you are able to send your questions to the project about Reya Labs down in the reply, right? So by doing so, please send first of all, please send the best questions about Reya Labs, right? And their product. They are building, a modular layer two that is specifically optimized for perp decks. So yeah, ask questions about that, about the team, about the project specifically. Put them down in the reply. Simon and I will select 5 best questions, and then Simon will answer on the space. And by doing so, the 5 lucky questioners will receive $100 in total, so $20 each. Yeah, very simple, very straightforward. Now about Reya Labs, I did my research about Reya Labs, and it has okay. So there was a similar project. I think we talked about that on our live stream every day. Previously, there is a project. I don't want to say their names, but they are also doing similar things where they are building like a modular, not modular, but like Layer 2, derivative Layer 2 catered for perp decks, perpetual trading. And then when I looked at Reya Labs, I said like, okay, so they are doing similar things, but no, they are quite. I would say they are quite different, and it's like there are nuances. So, um, first of all, they have a chain at the moment that if you want to trade on their on their decks, you have to first of all deposit the money into the decks, and you have to switch chain to the Reya chain. All right, so you cannot use like for example Ethereum or Arbitrum to trade. You have to switch to that chain. I'm very excited to maybe learn about the decision why they want us to switch to their chains instead of like using Arbitrum, for example, or Ethereum, Optimism, different things. And then upon trading on their platform, everything works. First of all, everything works very smooth, very fast, no issues at all. However, still have a few questions about the UX, the UI, and then the transactions and all that. But with that being said, check them out. Reya Labs building a modular layer to cater to perpetual trading. So with that being said, let me welcome Simon, the co-founder, to the stage. Hey, Simon, I think you're here with us. Can you hear me? No, here we go. So just invited you as the speaker. Simon, can you hear me?
I got added as a speaker. It cut out for the final 15 seconds. Just say that again.
Yeah, it was weird. 1 second, Simon. I think you're in like a small room. I think it's a bit echoey where you're at. So maybe try a bigger room, a different environment. See what's up. But yeah, we can hear you just fine. I think your connection is all good, but just the volume is at like some issue with it. But I think that's fine. But hey, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. If you, my internet has just broken on my phone, which is why I just connected on my laptop and switched. If it's really echoey, give me 2 minutes and I can get some headphones. But you tell me how bad it is.
Yeah, I think switching to a headphone would be much better. Wait, hold on. So you can talk on Spaces with a laptop right now?
You can, yeah. They've changed it, so I'm using
Oh
my laptop.
shoot! Damn, I
Yeah,
didn't know it. I was
My
using
phone,
my phone.
honestly, my phone kept cutting out. I don't know why. But give me 2 minutes. I'll put the headphones in.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Oh yeah. So why not we just waiting for Simon? Seeing quite a few people trying to raise like their hands, trying to ask questions or something. Guys, please do not raise your hands right now, because I will not be picking anyone to the stage at the moment. Again, there is a second part, which is coming after my questions about Reya. After our discussion, there will be time for you guys to ask your questions. But if you want your questions to be selected, just put them in the reply. Again, in the reply of the Twitter space right now. Okay. Or you can maybe pick it out or send it in the announcement post of the AMA. So two tweets for you to reply. Send either one, and then we'll go through the questions. If we see any good ones, I'll pin it up here to the space, and that's how you're going to be selected. So if you want your questions to be selected, again, remember to ask the specific questions about Reya Labs, about their products, about their mainnet product that is live right now that you guys can try and use, right? So try it and let me know what you think about it.
Hey, can you hear me better now?
Oh, it's much better. Hey, man. Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. And sorry, there's just a few internet issues at the beginning of today. But anyway,
No, you sounds great.
super excited to be here. It's nice to be talking with you.
Yeah, me too, me too. Like again, okay, so I did that little intro right there, saying that I have a bunch of questions about how you design this product. There are pros and there are cons, obviously, and I would love to like give some of my thoughts and my feedbacks if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So first of all, before we dive into the products, it's always great to just give us a general introduction, about who we're talking to, Simon, and your past experiences, your team, and maybe a better intro as to what Reya Lab is doing.
Yeah, sure. So, for anybody that kind of doesn't know me and is listening for the first time, this is actually my fourth startup. So, long story short, a few life experiences back in the middle of the global financial crisis. It's obviously a long time ago now, but that completely changed the direction of my life. And instead of going and becoming an architect, I decided that I needed to do something about the financial services industry. And what that led to is four startups. First one, honestly, was unsuccessful. Second one was a lot more successful. We sold that to an international bank. Those were both two Web2 businesses. That sale coincided perfectly with DeFi summer. And for me, crypto had always been something I'd been super interested in, had held off kind of going all in the space because particularly in the ICO boom, I looked at it a lot. I just didn't really feel like it was at a place where we could properly build financial primitives that have the potential to displace huge swathes of traditional finance and ultimately positively impact the lives of billions of people. DeFi summer, in my mind, changed that. It felt like a real inflection point where the technology was getting to the point where we could actually start building these types of primitives that have the impact that I want to kind of have on the world. So I went all in. Kind of met my co-founder at the time. We went and built Faults Protocol, which for anyone who didn't know that, who doesn't know what that was, it was the world's first interest rate swap DEX. We kind of generated over 30 billion of volume inside 12 months, which honestly, for people that know the DEX volumes, is pretty phenomenal. But at the back end of last year, we then made a decision to actually sunset Vaults in order to focus on Reya, because frankly, Reya is 1,000 times bigger idea. So to then explain kind of what Reya is, the first thing that's worth saying, which is kind of unique really, is that we actually have two products, which is deliberate and very different to a lot of other people in the space. The main product is Reya Network, which is a trading optimized L2, where what we have done in order to make it trading optimized is we've really focused on two things. Number one, we focused on performance. So we achieve 100 millisecond block times and 30,000 transactions per second, which if you compare that to the likes of Monad or Say, as an example, they achieve 10,000 transactions per second and 16,000 transactions per second. So granted, we're an L2 and they're an L1, but on that metric alone, we're between 2 to 3 times more performant than those networks. So that's kind of one of the things which we've done to make Reya Network trading optimized. But the second thing which we've done, which frankly is the biggest and completely unique for the whole space, is we have figured out how to embed liquidity into the network itself. So what this means at a practical level
is as a user, you will stake capital into the network. And as a result of staking capital into the network, that gets passed through a passive LP pool mechanism and gets made available as liquidity for any of the DEXs building on the network. And what does this mean? It means, unlike generalizable L2s, where each time a new DEX deploys on a network, that fragments the liquidity, actually with Reya, because the liquidity exists at the network level, each time a new DEX deploys on the network, it doesn't fragment the liquidity. So you have this kind of big and growing liquidity pool that is accessible to all of the DEXs, which creates deeper markets, better trading conditions, and in general kind of helps accelerate the growth of those DEX teams. In order to bootstrap all of this, I kind of said at the beginning that what we're doing is kind of different in that we have two products. And in order to explain that, sorry, in order to bootstrap this, the second product is a perp DEX, and we are actually deploying and have deployed the very first perp DEX on top of the network. So that went live just a few days ago. There's already a lot of people that have come through and started trading against the liquidity that exists inside the network. There's a bunch of things which we can dive into there around that perp DEX, but it is worth saying that is the first of many DEXs which will go live on the network, but it's being done very deliberately by us as a team in order to kind of bootstrap and accelerate the growth of the whole ecosystem.
That was a fantastic intro. And with that intro, I actually have a few questions too, actually. So, yeah, going back to your vision with your whole career, and right now, Rhea, is you trying to, make a difference with the financial world, right? Trying to change people's life with blockchain and crypto. Do you want to talk about how you're going to do that with Rhea, and specifically with this product of a perpdex?
Yeah, well, so it's just worth reiterating that Reya Network is the main product, and if you kind of
Right.
if you really zoom out, like what is the problem that we're solving there? We um, basically have a view that the next wave of DeFi scaling is not going to be enabled by generalizable L2s. And that's because, whilst generalizable L2s have been extremely helpful for the first wave of kind of scaling Ethereum, they also, by nature of being generalizable, create a whole load of limitations for specific use cases. So if you think about kind of DeFi and specifically trading as a use case, even simple things like gas, right? Gas is a just terrible UX for a trading venue. Having some sort of random variable which appears that is actually not related to your kind of trading kind of size that you're putting through, and is exposed on a generalizable L2 to a whole bunch of exogenous events like a random NFT minting. Like that's a really bad experience for a trading venue. But what we can do by kind of moving away from a generalizable design and being focused on a single use case, which in our instance is trading, is we're able to get rid of some of these limitations that exist on generalizable networks, like gas is a very small example of that. Plus, we're able to build in things that you couldn't otherwise have on a generalizable network, like the shared liquidity layer. And that enables us to actually start building a network which becomes the best possible place that any DEX could ever deploy. And in doing so, therefore, facilitates the next wave of DeFi scaling. So that's kind of like the big hairy problem that we're solving is this kind of like transition away from generalizable L2s to kind of more specific L2s that are focused on
Right.
specific use cases like trading. And then obviously that the kind of trigger there is all of the DEXs start to go live, and we've deployed the first one.
Yeah. So, okay. So, a few comments about that too. Yes, I agree that liquidity right now is a huge issue, and as you said, all the layer twos they are fragmented. Even though they are layer twos used to scale Ethereum, But every time we use those layer twos, it feels like a separate blockchain. They don't connect, right? So uh, with that being said, there are already a few projects that are also doing similar things to what your vision is, which is like a shared liquidity layer, namely like Orderly Network. I don't know if you heard about them, but yeah, they're also doing like a shared liquidity layer three, and also Omni Network. They're also doing something like that. And so when it comes to that, we're seeing different protocols. They are trying to do that just like you. And the main issue is the users, when they look at all these options, they're not going to know like, okay, so what should I choose? What's the better alternative? So the problem lies in how you attract the liquidity to Reya network, right? Because as you said, it's shared liquidity to all the dexes. What if there's not enough liquidity? So when it comes to that question, to that issue, I just want to ask real quick, like, how do you sort of like, do you have a growth plan for Reya network to sort of like compete for liquidity, because it is a very very competitive game with other big players out there? What is your growth plan to attract liquidity, basically?
Yeah, I get that. And you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Like there might be other people that copy our model, but the USP is the liquidity. So if you have the liquidity, then you kind of have the reason for DEX teams to come in and build on the network in the first place. So what we did is we actually launched the network. I think at this point it's about 4 weeks ago, with what we described as a liquidity generation event, where there were kind of incentives for people to come in and deposit liquidity into the network. And what that meant is that within, I think, 4 days, we actually had more liquidity in Rare Network than GMX has for ETH, BTC, and Sol. So there's actually a ton of liquidity. I think at the moment it's about 240 million of liquidity embedded into the network itself. The other thing which I'd say is that inbuilt into the actual design of the network, um, so it's a gas-free network. How is it gas-free? It's gas-free because it charges bips based on trades, which obviously from a trading perspective is kind of orders of magnitude better because it's predictable. But what we're able to do with that essentially revenue stream that the network is generating is 60% of all of the fees generated by the network go back to network stakers. So you are staking kind of capital into the network that's creating this huge liquidity pool, but then you are also collecting 60% of the fees that are generated from the network itself, which obviously provides significant incentive for people to stake in the first place and to continue to remain staked over the long term.
I mean, that's a solid plan. I mean, 60% of all the fees generated is insane. And I think we'll touch on, the fees distribution allocation just in a little bit. But yeah, so that's the general plan, right? Just have insane incentives for the people to deposit liquidity into your platform. So with that being said, something that a lot of these projects or liquidity protocols they have troubles with is that when they first launch, right, a lot of liquidity attracted, but then after a few months, maybe after a year, after all the incentives could be about airdrop, I don't know, has been distributed, the LPs, they lost interest and they withdrew liquidity and they move on to like shinier things, right? So do you have any comments on how to like keep them around for a long time?
Yeah, it's got to be self-sustaining, absent of token incentives. So the incentive, which I mean, clearly there's kind of Reya doesn't have a token yet, so there's kind of people can obviously kind of make a jump as to kind of what that can mean in the future. But 60% of all of the
Airdrop.
I didn't say that. 60% of all of the fees that go back to stakers are USDC based yield. So that's actually not incentives. It's just the economic structure of the network is designed in a way which enables people to continue to generate yield. And the truth is, like, kind of what is it that people are doing when they're airdrop farming? They're looking for the most part, they're looking for yield. So if you actually have a native yield that is USDC based embedded into the network design, and that if that yield is substantial, which is what we expect it to grow into, then there's a reason for people to continue to remain staked because they're generating kind of 50-60% USDC based APYs.
Okay, I see you. I see you. So it's all about the yield and the design structure of the project that is able to give out that insane high amount of yield, like as you said, 50 to 60% APY. That's a lot.
It can grow. Sorry, just to be clear, that's what
Yeah.
it could grow into that based on trading volume. So it's not that today, but that's certainly what we expect it to grow into in the future.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for being transparent. Let's dive into that. So so we talk about, first of all, the introduction. Second of all, we talked about the liquidity layer, which is the core focus, and your plans to attract liquidity because that's the utmost importance, and then how to maintain that liquidity. And as you said, the high, in order to maintain the liquidity, it's all about the yields. If people see the yield, they like the yield, they're gonna be hanging out for a long time. And in order to get the yield, you need trading volume, trading activities. And for now, the perp DEX on Reya is developed in-house by Reya team. It is the only DEX that we can play around with on Reya network. That's the main generator of the trading volume plus and then the yield. So let's talk about that, the perp DEX. Okay, so maybe to give people a heads up, can you explain the notable features of your perp DEX regarding the transactions, the trading and everything, so that we can dive into future questions?
Yeah, sure. So there's just before I go into that, I do just want to reiterate, Reya DEX is the first of many DEXs to go live. Actually, there are a number of very big DEX teams that are looking to get live in the coming weeks. So one is a spot DEX, top 5 spot DEX in the space. The other is a top 3 perp DEX in the space, and they're looking to deploy on the network. And at the point that they are deployed, the perp DEX, so the spot DEX is not yet integrated into the liquidity pool, but the other perp DEX, that will generate fees for the pool. So the pool is collecting fees based on, network stakers, which is kind of creates the liquidity pool. They're collecting fees based on trading volume from Reya perp DEX, but also any other perp DEX deployed on the network. In terms of the features of Reya perp DEX, one of the biggest ones is actually kind of a lot of the cross margining benefits. So in particular, there is what we describe or is described across the industry as full portfolio cross margining. And what does this mean? It means that from a single margin account, you can go long ETH and short BTC, where the way in which those kind of margin requirements are computed is it's able to recognize that the short BTC leg in this example is a partial hedge to the long ETH leg. So in a normal perp, just to explain this, so in a normal perp DEX, what would happen is if you went long ETH, you'd have a margin requirement. And if you went short BTC from the same margin account, you'd then have an additional margin requirement. But in practice, because these two markets are so highly correlated, actually the short BTC leg in that example works as a partial hedge. So what is extremely common across like the whole of traditional finance and kind of various other versions of finance is to have what's described as portfolio cross margining, where you're able to recognize those correlations and not have two margin requirements to add together. Kind of what does this all add up to? It basically means that you can trade kind of spreads. So is ETH going to increase at a faster rate than BTC? Right, you can trade those spread markets in a manner which is about 350% more capital efficient than other perp DEXs. Pretty topical thing at this point in time. Obviously, the ETH ETF decision is expected today. What does that mean you can do? Obviously, there's a lot of people that are just going long ETH. If you kind of think that the way the markets work is it's kind of buy the rumor, sell the news, so you're unsure as to whether it's going to go up or down, what you can actually do is you can make a decision of, well, I don't care whether it's going to go up and down. All I care about is whether it's going to go up or down relative to BTC, and that's the spread market, which is obviously something that you can trade on Reya, which you can't do anywhere else.
That is a fantastic feature. First of all, I really like that. It's something that is not known to a lot of people. I feel like that's something experienced traders they would like to explore more. So when it comes to the new traders and the liquidity providers are mostly new traders, um, what would you say is the more prominent features that's catering to them, makes them more attractive to be trading on your Pripdex currently?
Yeah, so I guess the kind of more simple features around that are it's lightning fast, so 100 millisecond block times, 30,000 transactions per second. There's deeper liquidity than GMX. So kind of what does that mean? It means that you basically have less slippage, so you're more likely to get a better price. And then alongside that, actually, in terms of the capital efficiency and the kind of margining requirements, they're super attractive too. So if you're doing single trades at the moment, just because the DEX has literally just gone live, you can do up to 20x leverage. That will grow to 30x leverage in the coming months, just kind of once we kind of monitor the way that that performs. But then also you can do these things where you are going long ETH, short BTC from a single account, which is literally multiples more capital efficient at the point you start doing that.
Fantastic. Yeah, so here we go. I'm actually been, trying the product out for several hours. And first of all, the process of how you can start trading on the Reya DEX is first very quite simple, just like other DEXs that we've seen. We need to deposit, right, our USDC.E on Arbitrum, layer twos, or you can choose Ethereum, OP, Midnet, Optimism, and then Polygon as well, or Base. So famous layer twos. Once you deposit your money into the platform, you can start trading. But there is this one token that is called the RUSD. So when we deposit USDC into the platform, it turns into RUSD. First of all, it might cause a little bit confusion. Do you want to explain what this token is and what's the roles within the DEX?
Yeah, so Reya Network has its own native stablecoin, which is described as what it is. It is RUSD. That's what it's described as. In the future, that's going to be kind of embedded more into the functioning of kind of the way that yields are generated and distributed across the whole network. So it will become a yield-bearing stablecoin. As of today, obviously, we're kind of rolling things out in a sensible and scalable way, and a sensible, scalable, and safe way, I think is worth emphasizing. So as of today, the only way in which you can mint RUSD is by depositing USDC. So it is quite literally, as of today, just wrapped USDC. That's all it is. But in the future, you will be able to mint it using multiple different collateral assets, and it will become a yield-generating asset.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So that clears it up. Thank you very much. The next thing that I want to talk about is okay. So once you deposit your money into the platform, now you can trade, right? So you have to actually switch your network into Reya chain, right? So you have to add it there, and once you do, and you start maybe like long on Ethereum, for example, click on trade. It still asks you for signature, right? It is a little bit of a weird thing that maybe I'm not familiar with, because my previous experience with other dexes is that when I deposit money into like the common wallet, I don't have to worry about signing transactions. The transaction is just gonna go through, just like a centralized exchange experience, right? So do you want to elaborate on the whole signing thing? Because if I want to sign things, I don't want to like deposit my money into the platform. When I deposit money into the platform, I don't want to sign things. I just want it to go through, boom, one click, just like that.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's worth saying there's two separate things. So the first one, you are bridging. So you're having to bridge assets, and what we've done is we've actually bundled two steps into one. So you're both bridging and depositing into your margin account in a single step. What we're actually working on is features like what you just described. So where you wouldn't have to sign every single transaction. As of today, it's kind of again, in order to kind of improve the security of the network and the protocol at the beginning, each transaction is requires a signature. So people perhaps don't realize this, that when you're doing that on other dexes and when you're not required to sign every trade, there are different security assumptions associated with that. Just right at the very beginning, at the point that everything's gone live, we've kept signatures as a requirement, but there is a feature that is literally actively being worked on right now that will remove that requirement, and therefore improve the UX. But it is obviously subject to kind of different security assumptions. So users will get the choice of whether they want to enable that or not enable it.
Ah, I see. So in the future there will be that. Okay. Yeah. About the security too. Um, okay. I don't. Okay. So can you elaborate? Like, if we don't sign a transaction, if we sign transactions, what's the difference? Does that mean that our funds is, in danger of some way?
It's not necessarily in danger, but like there's other perp dexes, and basically what they do is they kind of abstract away
Right.
the requirement to sign, and what that means is it means that there is um, there's an attack vector that exists there because somebody could theoretically get into that attack vector and start kind of signing transactions on your behalf, without ever requiring your actual kind of private key and signature to enable it. So typically what people do, and this is what we're doing, is in order to reduce the security risk there, you enable sessions to take place. So you could, for example, sign once, and it enables you to basically execute transactions without signing for the next week, and then you have to enable it
Mhm.
again. So that's something which we will likely introduce, but it's just different security assumptions for different people.
I see. I see. All right. So it's all designs then. Okay. In the future, there'll be other features. I would love to explore more, but right now, if you want to trade, you gotta sign transactions, maximum security. Okay. Other things that I want to comment on is at the moment, guys. Again, you can try this mainnet right now, the DEX right, the Perpex right now, right? There are two trading pairs of Ethereum and then Bitcoin, and then the trading, like the panel, is very simple to use, very easy. Uh, and at the moment, you are incentivizing traders by having a system called the random XP boost from 1x to 10x. So do you want to elaborate on that? And what is this for, the XP?
Yeah, so there's a few different things here. So for the initial trading event, which is going on right now, and will last for a period of 3 weeks, there's actually an additional incentive that exists beyond XP, where on each trade there is a random opportunity to earn an NFT. And there'll be 7,500 NFTs that are distributed over these first 3 weeks. People at the end of the season will have the opportunity to mint that NFT, or they can burn it for a boost to their XP. So anybody that's come through the kind of like liquidity generation event kind of process for the network, basically what you could do is you can and can continue to do, you could deposit capital, which earns you an amount of XP per minute. And alongside that, you could lock in these boosts, which accelerates the rate that XP grows. So to describe this for the LG, and then I'll talk about trading. Um, Basically, the way that works is it's 1 XP per minute for every $1,000 staked. If you had a 10x boost, you'd be getting 10 XP per minute for every $1,000 staked. So it just increases the rate of at which XP grows. The NFT for trading could enable you to get a boost. Alongside that, there are just kind of general kind of incentives that exist, that will continue beyond the initial trading event, where people can earn XP based on the trades which they're placing, which is the bit that you've seen in purple, which exists on the trading screen at the moment.
No, I see. Damn. So we cannot earn the XP by trading at the moment. Wow. Okay.
No, you can.
Ooh.
Sorry, no, you can. Sorry, just to
Oh.
be
Oh.
clear, you can. There is just in addition to that, there is the opportunity to earn an NFT. There's 7,500 of them
Ah.
over these next 3 weeks.
I really like that. I have never seen anyone doing that. Like, give us a random NFTs, like just randomly based on our trade. So only 7,000. Yeah. Okay. So is there a requirements, the minimum like trading volume, whatever, so that we can be eligible to mint the NFT, or no matter.
Yeah, so it's not like we deliberately aren't kind of favoring whales. So it's just random for anybody that places a trade. But there is a minimum trade size, which is all done in base terms, but it works out roughly like $100 to $150, depending on which asset you're trading.
I see. No, it's reasonable. It's reasonable. I've done way more than for way less. So yep. The next thing. Okay, so the boost right now. Unfortunately, I get like a 2x boost. That sucks. But I like the system. Like you select. Okay, so that is the architect in you, huh? Yeah. But yeah. So the one problem that I can see is immediately there would be a ton of people who has like a lot of wallets. They're just gonna connect to your platform and they're just gonna select just a random child, and then once they get a 10x boost, they will start you know trading. Is that like an issue to the platform? And when it comes to the bots, how do you identify what's trading, right? Fake volume and real volume, and then determine something like that.
Yeah, so the way in which the XP works is it's based on open interest. So it accrues over time, which basically means that it's very difficult for people to, well, I mean, it's impossible for people just to place like long short, long short, long short, long short. That doesn't accrue XP. XP is generated off holding a position over a period of time. So that in itself is deliberately designed to disincentivize wash trading. Um, on the kind of point about people trying to lock in 10x boost across multiple different wallets, you still have to deposit capital and have to kind of place trades in order to get those boosts in the first place. Um, and it's worth saying every time you place a new, so if you were to come in and have hundreds of wallets all placing trades trying to get the 10x boost on a trade, if you're doing that for $100 and you then wanted to increase the size to therefore increase the amount of XP that you earn, the next trade actually overwrites the boost. So you can't get a 10x random boost and then increase the size of the trade, because at the point that you change the trade size, you're going to get another random boost. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I actually enjoy the earning XP through the open interest rather than the volume. A lot of projects they do that through the volume, and damn, we cannot compete basically. The whales just come in, the bots just come in, just open trade for like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, close it. They earn all of the points, all of the airdrop, and we cannot compete. So the system in Reya is pretty nice. I actually would love to check it out. Probably one of the better ways for us to, I'm not gonna say it, but earn something. Okay, so that's very interesting. The next question that I have for you is in terms of the fees for the platforms. You want to talk about how much you charge, not the gas fee, but like
Well, there is no,
platform fees.
there is no gas fee, but there's so each trade gets charged 5 basis points.
Ooh,
And the way in which that works is that 60% of that, so 3 basis points, goes back to network stakers. 1 basis point goes back to the DEX that generates the volume. So remember, there will be multiple DEXs. And then 1 basis point goes to the kind of Reya DAO treasury. So actually, 80% of it is going back to either stakers or the DEX that generates the volume. Only 1 bit goes to the treasury. Just given the economic incentives is deliberately there to get people to stake and help them generate yield from staking, but also support the DEXs that are generating volume.
beautiful. Okay, I see. Only 5 basis points, not too much. I like it. I would say one of the smallest in the business, honestly. Okay, interesting. Um, so about the partnerships, okay, so that's about the dex, guys. Again, a lot of things that you need to know about the Reya dex, but like if you've been trading a lot on prep dexes, then you would understand what I was talking and we were discussing about. If you don't understand what we were discussing about, I would suggest you to go and try that product out. That's the only way for you to fully understand all the platform, and also read their white paper and everything. Okay, but I would suggest you to try them out, get your hands on it. That's the best way that you can fully understand. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to the next question about your planning, about your futures. Uh, First of all, partnerships. You said that there are several DEXs that are trying to onboard to Reya and will be onboarding to Reya, depending, right? the top 5 spot decks, very attractive, and then top 3 spot decks, and then perp decks as well. So you cannot name any names at the moment, right? But maybe let's talk about the events or the collaborations with them that might benefit the community. So how are you going to benefit the community with these partnerships? Will there be major events coming with them as well? What can we expect, basically?
Yeah, so there's I guess the kind of roadmap exists in 2 ways. There's the roadmap in terms of stuff that will happen on the deck side. So I can talk about that in a minute. And then of course there's the roadmap in terms of what's going to happen on the network side, the network being the main product. The biggest part of that is the ecosystem being started to be built out. And as we were saying at the beginning, the key is the liquidity. So we actually have the liquidity. There's more liquidity in Reya network than on GMX, as I mentioned. And what that meant is that at the point that all this liquidity came into Reya network, with actually very little kind of outbound from us, there's a whole load of DEX teams that reached out to us who wanted to deploy. So we've been working very closely with a bunch of those teams. They're going to be going live in the coming weeks. There's going to be some pretty nice kind of co-marketing and events that exist around that. As you said yourself, I'm not going to name names right now because it kind of ruins the surprise. And likewise for the events, all I can say is that we have always had kind of good events where people can get involved at a very early stage, and we're going to continue doing that with these new partners as they go live.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we forgot to talk about not forgot to talk about, but I forgot to really mention the liquidity again. They at the moment, Reya, after just 4 days of the network going live, they already have $230 something million in liquidity. That is a lot. All right. So again, like Jacob, they could definitely go up higher than this to the billions in liquidity, I hope. Again, like with the current APY that they are offering and the future potential APY they're offering as there are more DEXs onboarding, that's going to be very attractive. Okay, so that's the networks partnerships. What about the perp DEXs plan in terms of the events, in terms of progress development?
Yeah, so the biggest event right now is what we're describing as the initial trading event, where there's these alongside all other incentives, there's this additional 7,500 NFTs that can be earned. That's like the event in terms of the actual roadmap. So there's a kind of bunch of things which are being rolled out at the moment. Kind of single click signing or kind of being able to trade without signing each transaction is obviously one which we talked about. There's some other features which we're going to be introducing, like stop loss, take profit, reduce only, just a more advanced kind of trading structures. Limit orders obviously is one which we're going to introduce as well. So everything at the moment is just market orders. We kind of know that is kind of bare bones. I guess that is in many respects why we have kind of the event going on at the moment where people can earn these additional benefits. It's because we recognize that people coming through right now are kind of very early and helping the project kind of grow. So there's a roadmap of kind of like I guess kind of straightforward features which we're looking to introduce. Alongside that, there's a roadmap of new markets and new collateral assets as well. So you'll be able to use multiple collateral assets to place trades on Reya DEX, and some of those collateral assets will also be yield-bearing assets, which again just further helps you in terms of your ability to generate P&L. If you've got your collateral assets sat there generating 30% yield, then you're already doing pretty well alongside the trading you're doing.
Beautiful. All right. A lot of things to be implemented in 2024. So stay tuned for Reya Labs. Again, right now you can try it out on the mainnet. Go to the links on their Twitter and then go to the website, and then you can start trading. One last question that I would have for you before we move on to the final part, the community questions, is that do you want to maybe name some of the important backers and investors into Reya Labs, and maybe give us sneak peeks into your plans with the tokens in the future?
Yeah, there's so we've raised what in total now $10 million. it's worth saying that that was across Vault and Reya, but there's kind of like a huge amount of the cash that was left for Vaults kind of moved across, with all the investors moving across as well. In terms of the backers, so Framework led the kind of seed round, Coinbase Ventures participated, Fabric Ventures participated. We've got Wintermute as a market maker, Selene as a market maker, CMS as a market maker, Amber Group as a market maker. Alongside that, there's just a bunch of kind of big angels, so Stanley of Aave, David and Ryan from Bankless, Sandeep from Polygon. There's a much longer list of people beyond that, which kind of we'd be here for a long time if I named everybody. But the point is that there's a lot of very respectable and some of the best investors, frankly, in the whole space that are excited about what we're doing, and that's led to us raising a significant amount of money. In terms of kind of plans for the future, so it's worth saying Reya doesn't have a token right now. That's just important to emphasize. So just beware of any scams. There's obviously the more successful we are, there's more people that try to impersonate Reya. So just be careful about that. In terms of token generation events, yeah, that's something which we haven't disclosed publicly at this point in time, but is very broadly planned for later this year.
Okay, all right. So I can't get anything out of you, but the XP and everything, according to my experience with doing all of these, perp dexes, the XP is for something that we need to take real close, keep our eyes real close into that. Okay, it's going to be important. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. But thank you very much, guys, for listening to my questions. Now, moving on to the next one, the community questions. If you have any good ones about Reya Network, about Reya PerpDex currently, about their partnerships, plans, whatever in the future, go ahead and leave it in the reply, because right now I am going to go through some of them. Okay, let's see if there is any good ones. Again, see a lot of questions that are copy and pasted, from other MA. So I will not be, picking those. Here we go. Only trying to choose the most specific ones. First question is from Ben. Okay, so the question from Ben is, how does Reya Network's performance metrics such as 100 millisecond block time, 30,000 transaction per second, I think that's wrong, like 100,000 something, position it as one of the fastest EVM rollups in the crypto space? What implications does this have for the users of the network, particularly in terms of transaction speed and efficiency?
Yeah, so it's worth saying it is 100 millisecond block times and 30,000 transactions per second. So yeah, the 30,000, again, just to kind of make the comparison across to Monad and say, Monad's doing 10,000 transactions per second, Say is doing 16,000. So it's anywhere between 2 to 3 times more performant. Granted, it's an L2 versus an L1, but in terms of what it means for users, it just means we are increasingly getting to a place where the types of products that we're able to build on chain are initially at feature parity with the CeFi entities, and then we'll start to surpass what's possible off chain. So from a performance perspective, obviously, if you're interacting on kind of any of the centralized kind of venues and trading on those venues, you'd expect kind of at least 100 millisecond block times in terms of round trip time for a trade. I mean, most of them are achieving kind of 30 milliseconds or below. And then in terms of throughput, like you want the venue, we want Reya Network to be capable of supporting the next Binance. In order to be able to do that, clearly you have to have a huge amount of throughput because there's a lot of trading volume which people are going to want to put through. So getting performance up to that level, it enables us to kind of have the underlying kind of rails and infrastructure which can support exchanges that are doing volume that can kind of actually compete with CeFi levels of volume. And what does that mean? It means that there's actually a statistic that always surprises me. It's, I think, out of all of the global crypto trading volume, about 2% of that exists on chain at the moment. So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is to get that 98%, which currently goes through CeFi entities, and start bringing that on chain. But in order to do that, clearly we have to have super performant kind of underlying rails. Otherwise, that volume is never going to move across.
Thank you very much for the question, Ben. I hope that answers it. The next one is from Kim, Bitcoin King. All right, so the question is, how does the first in, first out execution model with zero gas fee work in Reya network? And what impact does it have on eliminating front running and harmful MEVs?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So one of the benefits around making Reya gas free is you effectively remove the ability for someone to front run, and within that you remove the ability for kind of harmful MEV to exist in the same way as well. Things like sandwich attacks, as an example. I mean, it's a little bit different to gas, but it's still in the same vein. And by kind of taking that out of the equation and kind of adjusting the sequencer so that it basically orders transactions based on timestamp as opposed to gas, it means that trades get executed on what's described as a first in, first out basis, which basically means that if you place your trade before the next person, your trade will get executed first. And this is the way which, frankly, every major trading venue in the world works. Kind of the introduction of gas on chain, which is obviously done for a whole bunch of reasons, but the introduction of that created this kind of undesirable kind of consequence where people could front run. And now that we have essentially reversed that and removed gas from the equation, it means that transactions will just get executed on a FIFO basis.
Thank you very much for the question. I hope that answers it. The next one is from Chucky. And by the way, before we get into okay, what's going on? Ethereum is passing $3,900 right now. Wait, hold on. Is the ETF approved when we're doing the AMA? What's going on? I got a long. All right, hold on 1 second. I got a long on Reya. All right, give me a second. It's crazy. I just said receive a notification out of nowhere. Okay, here we go. This next one is from Chucky. So the Reya network mechanism design claims to be more capital efficient than the others, like synthetics. Can you delve into the specifics of the design and how it achieves higher returns, such as the stimulated 65% APY compared to synthetics 12%?
So the mechanism design. Sorry, you distracted me. I was checking the ETH price as well. But
Yeah.
the mechanism design that exists within Reya, it is way more capital efficient than pretty much any other kind of passive LP pool mechanism design that exists out there. In part, this is enabled by essentially a 3-to-1 ratio between kind of TVL that's deposited versus the liquidity that's created. And what does this mean? It means that kind of for kind of similar amounts of capital, you get much deeper markets, which therefore is able to support kind of much deeper trading volume. More trading volume obviously generates more fees. So what we actually did in order to just kind of analyze the impact of this as a mechanism design choice is we went back, we looked at a period of time on synthetics. We took the trading volume that was going through the synthetics mechanism design, and we took that volume and we pumped it through the Reya mechanism design. And for that period of time, for synthetics, their mechanism design generated 12% APY for their stakers. If they had been using the Reya mechanism design, it would have generated around 65% APY because the mechanism design is so much more capital efficient. So that's just in kind of like the very highest level. That's the kind of overall impact of just having a much more capital efficient mechanism design.
Thank you so much, Chucky, for the question. False alarm. No, it hasn't been approved. Just, I don't know, some, I guess, pre-news price action. But yeah, false alarm. Just gotta keep on waiting. Damn, scares me a little bit. Yeah, so the next question is from Yanbi. And the question is, what are the main differences between a trading optimized layer 2 solution and a traditional layer 2 scaling solutions in the blockchain space? I feel like we talked about it, but it's, I guess, very important to differentiate between these things.
Sorry, the difference between something that's trading optimized versus something that's generalizable?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we are able to support. Well, so in theory, somebody could come in and deploy like a gaming project of Reya network. Like the network itself is permissionless from that perspective. They'd struggle to make the functionality work the way they wanted to, given some of the kind of features that we built into the actual network design. But if you flip it on the other side, what we've actually done is we've built in features that make Reya network much more attractive for DEXs to deploy on, versus a generalizable kind of L2. So things like kind of gas-free trading, things like FIFO execution, they are kind of two small examples of limitations on generalizable L2s we've been able to remove. Some of the bigger things is obviously performance improvements, which is critical for any form of trading venue. But then also this other one, which is the piece that makes Reya network completely unique, is this embedded kind of liquidity pool into the network design itself. Meaning that if you were to deploy a DEX on Reya network, you get instant access to around 240 million of liquidity, which, if you compare that to a generalizable L2, is just kind of completely different and frankly transformational for those DEX teams.
Yep, I would say that the liquidity is one of the biggest things when it comes to Reya network. It solves so much issues, and with more liquidity, more DEXs will then want to integrate. More DEXs integrating means more users, more trading volume, more trading fees, and then more basically APY to the stakers, and then more APY to stakers means more liquidity. It's a very good circle. Just want to say that. Okay, so that was a Yambi question. Okay, the next one is from was it Andrew? Okay, so the question is, me, me and my friend deposited $5,000 in Reya liquidity pool. I appreciate you, sir. How will you use the liquidity the people added in the most effective way for both the protocol and for your users?
Yeah, so if someone stakes capital into the network, that goes through this passive LP pool mechanism and gets made as available as liquidity for any DEX that's deployed on the network. And clearly, the first DEX is Reya DEX. So as of today, you can go and trade. If you are trading against the passive LP pool, and the network stakers are compensated for that because they collect 60% of all of the fees that are generated by the network. It's worth reiterating, any perp DEX that deploys on Reya network can plug into that passive LP pool. And where that's kind of unique and beneficial to, frankly, the whole ecosystem, is that you get trading volume coming from multiple sources. So there might be 100 million a day going through kind of Reya DEX. There might be 100 million a day going through the other kind of DEX, which is going to deploy. That means that the actual kind of passive LP pool is collecting 200 million a day worth of fees, which is kind of unique relative to frankly any other network that exists out there.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew, for the questions. I hope that answers it. Don't worry, your 5K is safe and it will generate a lot of yields. Basically, and remember, there is a boost, a random boost that you can boost your sort of like XP by participating in the LP, right? So just, I hope that you get the most boost. But yeah, thank you very much. All right, with that being said, thank you so much, guys, for sending your questions about Reya Network and Reya Perpdex to the AMA. I appreciate your time. Before we end this space right now, do you have any closing thoughts, closing remarks to the Ethereum Daily and the Reya community listening to the session?
Only if you haven't checked the product out yet, you can obviously deposit into the network by going to reya.network. There's a fun little game which you've talked about, which enables you to boost your XP. If you haven't checked out the DEX, you can check out Reya DEX by going to reya.xyz. So it's actually two separate websites for the two different products. Alongside that, if you've got any questions, jump into Discord. There's a kind of army of community kind of mods who are around to help out with any of the questions that you might have. And again, if you get really stuck, you can open a ticket, and people in the team will obviously jump in and be happy to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Please go ahead and check out Reya. It's going to be something very big. Again, just look through all the projects, do your research about them, and you'll love them immediately. All right. With that being said, I'll see you in future updates with the mainnet. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Good luck with everything, Simon.
Awesome.
Hope you have
Yeah,
a
great
good
to be here. You too.